what up, everybody? It's the Rottweiler Patriots. I'm Vegas,
I'm T-Bone.
and we're coming at you with another video today where we're going to be doing the New England Patriots Armchair GM. So basically, I've spent some time putting together uh, three different scenarios where I become the general manager of the New England Patriots and try to make things happen to reach a final 53-man roster that I like for the next season. So there's three different scenarios. There's going to be free agent quarterback, current quarterback, drafted quarterback. And then it's, if we do these three things, what is the team going to look like? So the first one I've done is free agent quarterback. And this right here is my ideal situation. Now, there's only one free agent quarterback that I want, and that is Baker Mayfield. If we cannot get Baker Mayfield, I do not want to go the free agency route. And I have Baker down as a 4-year, $230 million a year deal. I think that's about what it should cost to get him, based off of my research of his market value. And then Bailey Zappi would be the backup, and then I would want to draft Sam Hartman, 6th rounder. He doesn't exactly have the most talent, but he is a very good young man. I've had the pleasure of seeing him play in person twice. He's just a great guy, and I think has the potential to be a decent backup in the league, if nothing at worst. So, and there's a lot of different things. There's free agent, there's the draft. We'll kind of go through in order. We'll start with the free agent stuff. First things first, of course, Baker, 4 years, $32 million a year. Then you have Marquise Brown, 4 years, $13 million a year. Then I want to sign Tyler Boyd to a 3-year, $9 million a year deal. Dalton Schultz, 3 years, $11.5 million a year. I think we could probably get him for that. Although I don't, again, Dalton Schultz is going to be a tough get because he's the best tight end in the market, and there's going to be a lot of guys. And he might not want to come to a team that struggled like us. So if we can't get Schultz, I'm perfectly happy with giving Hunter Henry 2 years, $8 million a year. And that'll save us a few million in cap. So, but Dalton Schultz is the goal. At the end of the day, a lot of these things aren't the most realistic thing on planet Earth, but they're good goals to have. Like Baker, I think will probably end up with Tampa Bay again. But if we can get him in New England, I would love to have him in New England. So, then you got Tyron Smith, offensive tackle. I'd give him a 2-year, $7.5 million a year deal, and then maybe add a 3rd-year option depending on how he's doing. My concern with him, of course, is his age, but he's still playing at a pretty good level. So, then I'd want to sign Bud Dupree, outside linebacker, for $1.5 million 2-year deal. And then Cameron Dicker, I'd like to sign 5 years, $3 million a year. Just solve our kicking problem for the foreseeable future. I don't know if we'll be able to get him, but if we can't get him, he would be a massive, massive addition to this team. And so then we're going to move on to who I would want to re-sign and what deals those would be. Kendrick Bourne, 3 years, $5.5 million a year. I think we could probably get him for that. Just given his injury. I do like Bourne, but I don't know how he'll do coming back off of that really bad injury. Then you got Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's earned 2 years, $3 million a year. Really liked him on the team last year. I'd love to have him back. Pharaoh Brown, I think, has earned himself 2 years and $2.4 million a year. And you got Michael Onwenu. This is one of the big ones. I want to give him 4 years, $12.5 million a year. Lock him in for the future. Then you got Anfree Jennings, who I like, give him 2 years, $2.5 million a year. Mac Wilson Sr., I want to give him a year, $1.4 million. Just see, what else he's still got. Miles Bryant, I think, has earned himself a 2-year, $6 million a year deal. Alex Austin, I really, really liked what I saw at the rookie at the end of last year, so I think give him a 2-year, $1 million a year deal, give him a chance to prove himself, and then if he, works his way up the ranks, maybe give him an extension worth a bit more money. Then you got Kyle Duggar, and this is the player who I most want to keep. 4 years, $10 million a year. I would love, love, love to keep Cal Duggar. Then you finally have Jalen Mills, 3 years, $3 million per year. Then, now we're going to do the players who I'm looking at drafting here. And with our third overall pick, I would want to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the player who I am most interested in New England drafting this year. He is my favorite player coming out. I see why people want to go quarterback, but the big thing for me is I don't want to be in a situation where it's like Bryce Young just thrown to the wolves and nothing to work with, And Bryce is good enough where I think he'll be able to work his way out of it now that he'll probably be given a better team to work with. But you saw what happened with Mac Jones, who had a really good rookie year. We screwed him over with our personnel and the way the coaching situation went, and it killed him. So, I would hate to do that to a future quarterback, put all our chips there, and then not do what else we need to do. Then I would want to trade Mac Jones, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Devontae Parker to the Atlanta Falcons for pick number 8. Would they accept that deal? I'd like to think so. They're definitely in need of a quarterback. Smith-Schuster, Parker, would give them they have some good weapons already. That'd give them a pretty deep wide receiver core and a quarterback who, one, has some chemistry with those guys, and two, is still capable of, I think, good play in the NFL. So, give those guys, and maybe another player, whatever it takes, get that number 8 pick and get Joe Alt. And if he's not available, whoever the best offensive tackle left at the 8 spot, gotta make that happen. Then you look at the second round, I would actually, we got a wide receiver. I'd get another one, Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey is a guy who I have really liked what I'm seeing from him. And I think we should be able to get him in that early second round spot. I know there's a lot of guys who like him, but there's so much superstar talent for the wide receiver position in the draft this year that I think it's very possible that he falls down to 34 for us. And then I'd also want to trade for the Giants, number 39 overall pick, give them Chris Board and Calvin Anderson. That'll fulfill 2 positional needs of theirs, at least, if not starters, from a depth perspective. We get number 39, and with that, I'd want to draft Peyton Wilson, inside linebacker out of NC State. I really, really like what I've seen out of Peyton Wilson, and I also happen to have some first-hand experience with him. But, I mean, he won all the awards for best defensive player in college football last year. So it's no surprise. I do think he'll fall that far just because teams are a little bit worried about his injury history, which is understandable, but for me, I think if he's there, you gotta take him. Then you look at the third round, I would want to go for a tight end. My top prospect around that spot is Ben Sinnott. I don't remember exactly how that's pronounced. And then I'd want to get defensive end Xavier Thomas with our 4th rounder, running back Cody Schrader with our 5th rounder, of course Sam Hartman with that 6th rounder, and then outside linebacker Jalix Hunt with our 7th rounder. Now, the chances of every single one of those guys being at their spot is not 100%. It's not very high. It's, but at the end of the day, it's like, get a player at that spot that fills that position that is comparable to one of these guys. If Xavier Thomas isn't there, get the next best defensive end out there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But you can see here, this is the final roster that I would like us to have going into next year, and I think that this would be a pretty darn good team that would quite frankly be capable of competing for the division right away. T-Bone, I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, of course. Well, I definitely think that you got some great pieces. I mean, I really think that the receiving core, I think that's including the tight ends. I mean, I think you got some great options here. Uh, I really like the Marvin Harrison Jr. draft, and I definitely think that you can get him that high. And I don't think you're reaching to get that either. That's the thing. So I really, I think, and if you can, I mean, like you said, not all these guys are going to be New England Patriots, but these are great goals to have and to attain, and try to get to. So I mean, if you think about it, if you're able to get Hollywood Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., you know, retain Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, get Tyler Boyd, that's awesome. And I mean, same thing with Dalton Schultz. So I mean, like not likely, but definite. Um, I like the Baker Mayfield pickup. I do. I think you can definitely do some work with that. And it is you have to get him though. That's the thing, because like you said, he's probably going to stay in Tampa. But really, offensively, great stuff. As far as defensively, I mean, I think you got some pretty good uh work. I think you did some pretty good stuff. I personally am a little bit of a critique of um guys on the older side going into the draft. And that's not, hate. That's just, you got to question their injury history and sort of, I mean, how old is Peyton Wilson? Maybe 23, 22,
He
23, I think.
he's definitely up there, but his age isn't that big of a concern for me personally. There's always a concern about it translating in the NFL. I think Peyton Wilson is smart enough, and I think Peyton Wilson has the skill set and the mentality to be able to succeed. The only concern I have for him is that he's had some injury issues in the past, but if he's able to stay healthy, his willingness to work, like he wants to make the play every single play. He'll outwork you, he'll outrun you, he'll out everything. I mean, and dude also recorded going over 23 miles an hour as a linebacker
Linebacker.
this past year. Went faster than any player in the NFL did. By the way, I think the speed was 23.4 miles an hour as a linebacker. He made that happen. He has a level his level of speed and versatility that I think if he's able to really develop in the NFL, he could be a really, really good football player. So, that's why I went with him. And yeah, like you talk about wide receiver. Wide receiver has been the issue of this team, so I've definitely put a lot of investment there. Defense itself doesn't look that much different. Only 4 new players brought in. And I mean, when our defense that's playing as well as ours, even with all the injuries we had last year, no reason to change what's working. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Anything else you got to add before we move on?
No, not really. I mean, good stuff.
Alrighty then, we're going to move on to scenario number 2. We keep Mac Jones as the quarterback in New England. And this seems like the most realistic outcome. If we're not able to get Baker Mayfield, then this is probably the outcome that I would want the most. I would rather keep Mac Jones and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. than draft a quarterback at the 3 spot this year. That is my personal preference. Obviously, there are going to be plenty of people who disagree with it because we have the 3rd overall pick in quarterbacks. You know how it goes. But this scenario, of course, Mac Jones is kept. He is still under contract with us for next year. We probably will not pick up his 5th-year option if he does well, because we will end up having to pay him like $26 million. And even if he does well, I don't know if we're ready to pay him that much. But this would be keeping Mac Jones, and then the free agents we would want to sign. Of course, Hollywood Brown, 4 years, $13 million a year. Curtis Samuel had signed to a 3-year, $12 million a year deal. Then, of course, you have the Dalton Schultz, 3 years, $11.5 million a year. Then I want to get Jonah Williams, 5 years, $15 million a year. I want to lock him up. That would be a huge signing for us. Then, of course, I'd want to get defensive AJ Epineza. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But regardless, I want to give him 3 years, $5.7 million a year. Then, of course, I want to get Bud Dupree, give him 2 years, $1.5 million a year. And I want to sign inside linebacker Willie Gay Jr. to a 3-year, $7.2 million a year deal. And, of course, Cameron Dicker, 5 years, $3 million a year. And now if we go to the re-sign players, all the same as before. All the same contracts, all the same everything, and that's also going to be the case for our future simulation, so I'm not going to repeat those redundant contracts. Then, if we look at the draft, I would want to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 3rd overall pick. I would want to trade for Atlanta Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, Chris Board, Calvin Anderson. I think we can give them those 4 guys, get pick number 8, and spend that on Joe Alt if he's there, if not best offensive tackle available. And then I would want to spend our 2nd round pick on Ladd McConkey. You can see no trade with the Giants, not really any pieces to work with there. They're a bit of a different situation. But I still think we could use both our 1st and 2nd round draft picks on wide receivers who have proven that they can be pretty good players in this league. So, and then, of course, 3rd round pick, Ben Sano, tight end. 4th round pick, I want to get outside linebacker, Zion Tupuola Fatui. So, I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly, but I want to get him for the outside linebacker position. 5th round pick, Cody Schrader, running back. 6th round pick, Sam Hartman, quarterback. So that's what all that looks like. You can see everything here. Again, big key focuses for, newness is wide receiver and offensive tackle, as well as the tight end position. You kind of saw, very similar trend last time, but I mean, wide receiver, offensive tackle have been the 2 biggest issues for our teams, so they're the things that I attacked the hardest here. T-Bone, want to get your thoughts on this?
Of course, I really like that Curtis Samuel addition you added in there as well. I think he's very underrated on that Commanders squad. Maybe all his stats don't show it, but I mean, you got to think. I think he's either wide receiver 2 or 3 on the Commanders.
I think
on
2.
Kind of I wouldn't say it's a run first offense, but definitely they lean heavy into Brian Robinson. But really, it's just, I mean, and part of this is the fact that he used to be a Panther. We let him go. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a great relief wideout. So, I mean, I think you're really putting together a great wide receiver core with him in there, because really, he can pretty much do what you ask of him in that scenario. So, I mean, that really, and with Mac Jones, I kind of want him to stick around with New England. I kind of want that, man. I think I want them to give him another chance. I've been kind of back and forth on Mac Jones, man. He's had a rough year. I hope they do. Probably not, but one can hope. So that's kind of my thoughts on this scenario.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely of the opinion that Mac Jones was not given a fair shot the last 2 years in terms of the offensive coaching or the personnel. I mean, you saw, 2022, you saw the coaching and lack of wide receiver talent. They tried to address wide receiver, but, and the coaching, but then the offensive line fell apart, and then everybody got hurt, and he was just thrown to the wolves. So, it's like wide receiver has been the biggest issue, and it's like, okay, we're going to attack that for sure. And then offensive tackle last year was a disaster. And so, if we're able to re-sign Michael Onwenu, sign Jonah Williams, and then, draft a tackle, that bodes well for us. And then also, if that tackle ends up working out really well that we draft, we could also move Onwenu back to guard and be deeper at the guard position. That's the nice thing about Onwenu, is he can play tackle or he can play guard. So, if the two guys who end up being better than him at tackle, or suits the team better, we can put him at a guard position. And that makes us so much deeper. And, depth has been an issue with the offensive line, especially for all those injuries. But I think this would give Mac Jones a very good receiving core, which he has never even come close to having. A much more solid offensive line to work with. And then a lot, just a lot of talent. You throw in also Dalton Schultz at that tight end spot. I think you're giving Mac Jones a chance to prove that he can still play, that he hasn't fallen off. Like he showed us some magic in his rookie year, took us to the playoffs. We thought it would get a lot better, but then we screwed him over. So I think Mac deserves a chance. I'd love to see him get that chance. But, he's got to be able to shake off all the jitters that he's had over the last couple of years. Forget all that. Be a goldfish. Go out there and ball. If he can't play well with this group of guys, then he's not the guy. That's just the case at the end of the day. T-Bone?
Yep, I mean, you said it perfectly.
Alrighty then, we're going to move on to our final scenario, and that is the one in which we would draft a quarterback. So, Jaden Daniels would be my pick for the quarterback draft. Now, Daniels isn't available, it's going to be an interesting situation, okay? So you have quarterbacks are Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Those are the top three that people have. And it's going to be interesting to see how it goes out there. Now, my strategy when it comes to drafting a quarterback is do not at all draft Drake May. Do not draft Drake May. I do not want him on the New England Patriots. I don't necessarily know that the other guys are going to be good because it's very difficult to see what will and will not translate to the NFL. But I see a lot of problems with Drake May that really, really scare me. That, quite frankly, I don't think enough people are pointing out. Everyone looks at Drake May and they see the arm talent and his ability to run, and they think, oh, we have the next Josh Allen. And they don't stop to think, what if he's the next Zach Wilson? Because Zach Wilson had all the same athletic capabilities. So did many other guys. Not everyone turns into Josh Allen, and Josh Allen still has his fair share of issues when it comes to turning the ball over. Drake May, for me, he doesn't have the accuracy. He doesn't have the decision-making. And I just don't trust that he's going to be able to translate well in the NFL unless he's dropped in a 49ers-esque perfect situation, which even with the maneuvering that I've made happen, the magic, you could say, that I've made happen here, I don't think that's the case. I do not want Drake May. I see way too many red flags for the potential upside to be worth it. So, if it happens that both Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are taken off the board in the first two picks, which I think is unlikely, you either take Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, whoever is available to you. If both are available, I actually take Jaden. There's no universe both are available. I highly doubt that's going to be the case. But if somehow Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are both taken, I would rather draft J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is my next preferred pick. If Jaden Daniels is off the board, Caleb Williams is on, pick Caleb Williams. If both are gone, J.J. McCarthy. That's my draft strategy. There's a guarantee that you're going to have at least Daniels, McCarthy, or Williams available to you because you're the third pick. So you take one of those three guys in order of preference of Daniels, Williams, McCarthy. So that's my analysis when it comes to drafting the quarterback. Do not draft Drake May. It will not end well. I do not like what I've seen from him. So with, the quarterback situation out of the way, because that's always the biggest one. Oh, shit, I just realized I made a mistake with the color. Jacoby Brissett should be green. He would be a free agent that I would want to sign. But anyways, free agents. So I want to do Jacoby Brissett to a 3-year, $8 million a year deal. And, I think he's going to be a very good backup. And I think he'd be a great, veteran mentor for Jaden Daniels. I think Daniels and Brissett would work well together. And then you, of course, have Marquise Brown, 4 years, $13 million a year. Curtis Samuel, 3 years, $12 million a year. Dalton Schultz, 3 years, $11.5 million a year. Jonah Williams, 5 years, $15 million a year. AJ Epineza, 3 years, $5.7 million a year. Bud Dupree, 2 years, $1.5 million a year. Willie Gay Jr., 3 years, $7.2 million a year. And Cameron Dicker, 5 years, $3 million a year. Y'all have heard the drill for most of those guys at this point, and I'd want to get them. Resign, same as before. Born Elliott Brown, Anwani Jennings, Wilson Sr., Bryant, Austin, Duggar, Mills. If you want to hear those deals, go back to the first section of this video. Then you move on to, of course, the draft. So you take Jaden Daniels at the 3rd overall pick. Then I'd want to make the same trade as in scenario number 1, Mac Jones, Ooster Parker for Atlanta's number 8, and draft an offensive tackle, preferably Joe Alt if he's not there, next best guy. Then, of course, 2nd round, I'd want to get Ladd McConkey. He would be the big wide receiver draft, because he'd be the only wide receiver we draft in this draft with, Marvin Harrison Jr. no longer being an option since we drafted Jaden Daniels. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is my preferred draft pick, period, for this team. But this is if we would have to, of course, draft a quarterback. So we got Ladd McConkey at the 34. Of course, I'd make the same trade as before to New York for pick number 39. And with that pick, I would want to draft offensive guard Layden Robinson if he's not available. Best available offensive guard. I think that would improve our depth at the position, which is never a bad thing. Offensive guard was one of the things I didn't really get a good chance to address previously, and it's just you only have so much room to work with cap space and everything else. And I also think Cole Strange and City Sow are more than serviceable, especially if Sow continues to develop as well as he has been. Then, of course, you look at 3rd round pick. You want tight end. Again, Ben Sano written down. 4th round pick, Zion Tupuola-Fatui. For outside linebacker, 5th round, Cody Schrader, and then 6th and 7th round didn't make the roster here, so no specifications for that. But this is effectively the roster that I would like to go with, or something of this type. Should we draft a quarterback at 3rd overall? T-Bone, I would like to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I actually am surprised that you didn't throw the name around, the name Michael Penix around. I mean, at all. I mean, I didn't think he's that much different than, Caleb Williams or all that. I mean, certainly, Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are better, but I think Michael Penix is good. I think that the Jacoby Brissett backup pick is very underrated. I think he is one of the better backups in the league, and I think he's very good. I think he's very, very good. It'd be nice to see him come back to New England because I believe that's where he got his start, was it not?
I believe so. I mean, It's where he started his first game, during the whole Deflategate situation where Tom Brady got suspended for doing absolutely nothing.
So, I mean, and other than that, I mean, taking a look at the run game, I mean, I guess I haven't brought that up, but I should say something. I mean, I think it's good. I think the Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott, fully healthy, that is a very good uh, two-back thing. I mean, I think, like I said, Curtis Samuel, Marquise Brown, great additions. I mean, not other than that, kind of really covered everything else. So, yeah, I mean, I don't personally think this is the best scenario. I mean, I much rather prefer you guys get Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, well, let me rephrase. I would like the Carolina Panthers to get Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think you've picked the good guy. I think you've picked the right guy when we talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. That's no hate to Jaden Daniels or any of the other quarterbacks in this class, but it's just personally for me. I mean, I think he is one of the better players in this draft and would really bolster your wide out room. So I like scenario one personally, but this is it. This is a solid scenario as well.
Yeah, and I do want to touch on you talking about, hey, what about, Michael Penix? I don't dislike Michael Penix. I think there's some potential there. I have a few issues with him, a few more so than the other guys I've listed. I would pick Penix over Drake May. But at the end of the day, we have the third pick, which means I only really have to pick my top three quarterbacks, which Williams, Daniels, and McCarthy. Once you get past three guys, it becomes pointless just because we have the third pick. So even though I like Penix, there's always going to be someone on the board who I like more than him. And that's no disrespect to him. So, that's where I'm at. You can kind of see, especially in the defense, I made a lot of the same moves. A lot of the same moves overall across the three. But at the end of the day, the big difference is always quarterback. And, it's like you said, scenario one is the most preferred. The most realistic is scenario two. And then scenario three is more of a thought exercise. But at the end of the day, there's also a good chance we draft a quarterback. So it's like, if we were to draft a quarterback, what would I want this team to look like? Personally, I would rather us draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and then either try to get Baker Mayfield, and if we can't get him, roll with Mac Jones for next year. And I know that roll with Mac Jones for next year is going to hurt the brains of a lot of Patriot fans, which is understandable, but I don't think we've done right by him. And quite frankly, if it doesn't work out with him, there's going to be options for us next year, but I would rather focus on building a competitive team first before I take a quarterback and throw him into a situation that might not necessarily be the most ideal one on planet Earth. So, that's kind of where I'm at with all this. T-Bone, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
No, sir.
Alrighty then. Please be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. We would love to hear what you all have to say. And that is going to do it for us today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please be sure to hit that like button. Please be sure to subscribe. And we will see you all in the next video.